Hey everybody, welcome to this World Drum Club lesson. I'm Kalani, your host and teacher. You know, a lot of people I meet all over the world, and I travel all over the world teaching drumming and music and other things. But I meet a lot of people, and the thing that is the common thread and a need is better sounds, better sounding tones. There's so many people using drums and playing drums. And I said using drums because not all people who have drums are really playing drums. A lot of people are using drums for fun, for recreation, for learning, I use drums as a music therapist. Sometimes it's not about the drumming itself. But for those of you and those of us who want to improve our drum sounds, and I hope that's everyone, because quality sounds lead to quality music, right? Music is made of sounds, just like your voice, what you're saying is made of sounds. And so if you can work on your voice, your speaking voice, for example, and many people do, many people who communicate anything to individuals or groups of people, or maybe they just make recordings, they work on their voice, their vocal projection, their tone, their resonance, everything. So think of that as transferred onto your instrument, whatever your instrument is. Today I'm using a conga drum, but these ideas would apply to any instrument. So this video is all about helping you find some ways to make your drum sounds as good as possible. And these are not specific things I'm going to tell you to do. They're concepts for you to use and to apply. So I will show you some examples of how I apply those to this particular setting, but I want you to take these ideas and place them onto whatever instrument you're practicing and you hope to improve upon. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at when it comes to producing better drum sounds is to relax. I see a lot of people that have tension in their body, in their fingers, in their hands, in their wrists, in their arms. And tension really doesn't help produce a better sound. You might think it would because you think you're doing more, right? When you're using more energy or tensing up. But actually tension really has no place in quality music making, quality drumming. And you can talk to any musician, they'll tell you the same thing. How do we get past the tension? Well, we do that by improving our technique, and we do that with mindful practice. But let's just look at how I can play this drum very relaxed and still get some nice tones. So we have, three basic sounds, our bass. And by the way, if any of you have been taught that you play a bass tone on a conga or a djembe by hitting the middle of the drum, please forget that. You play a bass tone near the center, but not in the center. The center is a dead spot. I've covered this before, but I just want to reiterate it. So our bass tone. All right. I'm moving from my elbow. I'm really not tensing my arm or my hand or my fingers at all. It's just very comfortable, very relaxed. Open tone. So I'm moving again from the elbow, a little bit of wrist movement. Fingers are extended, but they're not. There's no tension. If there's any tension, it's just to hold my hand flat, somewhat flat, like you're going to go shake somebody's hand. That's about it. Very relaxed. Notice I'm letting my hand rebound. So the thing that tells me I'm relaxed is that my hand actually rebounds off because I'm putting energy into the head. That head is then, I'm having an opposite reaction. It's throwing my hand away. If I was tense, it might look like this. And you see how that has kind of it just has a harder sound. It's a little drier. It's not as resonant. So if you're not bouncing off of the head, at least a little, you don't have to bounce clear off, but I'm just saying if your hand is sticking on the head at all, then that's a different kind of stroke than an open stroke. There are muted strokes where we do press a little onto the head, but even that is fairly relaxed. So relax, shake your hand out a little bit, find the nice playing position. A lot of this is about preparation. You have to be sitting at a comfortable height. Make sure you're positioning your hand in the right spot. And then just relax and let gravity do the work. Let the head bounce your hand off. Now, notice that those tones were very consistent, right? That's because I've struck drums thousands and thousands of times over the last 40 years. So that relates to my next point, is if you want to have consistent sounds, let's say you can play a good sound, but it's not consistent, you've got to repeat it. You've got to repeat what works and just, practice. When you practice, of course, and you've heard the phrase practice makes perfect. You've also heard the phrase perfect practice makes perfect. And maybe you've heard the phrase practice makes permanent, right? So you've got to just repeat what works. And when you're practicing, and if your sounds are not completely consistent, and let's use another tone as the example, because many people struggle with the slap tone. And that's also where I see a lot of people having a lot of tension in their hand. They think they need to somehow, squeeze the sound out of the drum or press the sound out of the drum. So the slap is our harmonic, right? It's a relaxed tone. The only difference is your hand is curving a little bit. And while this lesson isn't really about technique, I just wanted to point out that I'm still relaxed. I'm just changing the technique a little bit, and I'm letting, my hand strike the drum, very relaxed. What I see sometimes is something that looks like this. Now, while that's not a catastrophe in terms of the sound, that staying on the head, holding my hand on the head, that's a lot of tension. So that's going to be fatiguing. You might feel it more at the end of a playing session. You might feel more, your hands might be more sore, they might be more tired, you might be more tired. And so as much as possible, try to not have any kind of tension. That, of course, relates to having good technique. So if you have good technique, you can stay relaxed. All these things work in an ecosystem. None of these things are really discrete. So everything that I'm talking about here is your drum ecosystem, all right? The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is rebuilding your technique and maybe your bad habits. Before I do that, I do want to thank all of the patrons who support this website. If you're not a member, go to patreon.com/Kalani and sign up, because that way you let me know that you appreciate it. And it's a way of just kind of throwing a buck in the tip jar for these lessons, saying, I love what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. Just like when, somebody serves you at a restaurant, you might leave them a dollar or two. This is kind of the same thing. Or you put $1 in that little plexiglass square at the coffee shop counter. I don't know why it's plexiglass or it's a square, but that seems to be what it is. Anyway, go to Patreon and sign up, and then it'll automatically happen. There's no way for you to shove money into your screen, unfortunately. I wish there was. That would be more direct, maybe. It'd be weird, but it'd be cool. Stick it in your phone like a little ATM machine. But in lieu of doing that, you go to patreon.com/Kalani, sign up, become a patron, become a supporter, and then I can actually do more to support you all, which I love doing. To wrap up this lesson on how to improve your tones, we're going to think about rebuilding technique. So, okay, here's your mission. You need to do your homework. You need to find good instruction, a good teacher, somebody who knows. And I would say that's anybody who is actively working as a drummer, not just somebody who has a website or has videos. Make sure the person has a professional history. They've done recordings, they do gigs, for example, right? Not just somebody that happens to own a drum. Study with them. There's lots of great teachers all over the world, right? Try to find the best teacher you can, including being here. I mean, this is a good start for you guys, but there are so many teachers who are qualified, who are percussionists and drummers. Study with them. If you can, get that live feedback, have somebody observe your techniques, and be willing to rebuild and rethink and reapproach your technique. So part of this lesson is about rebuilding, breaking down, discarding what's not working. If you've developed a bad habit, I've been, like I said, all around the world teaching, and sometimes I see people doing things that I don't even know where they got that. I don't like tones like playing like this or playing like that, or, jamming their hands into the drum and moving the hands all over in weird ways. I think that's just for lack of knowledge, lack of exposure. And so if that is you in part, if you have something that's not working for you and you think you could do better, just rebuild it, get rid of it, unlearn it, and you need to replace that with something better. All right. So I know that's a little vague, but it's something that I hope that you'll take a look at, because we all need to do that. We all need to change. Think about athletes. I mean, there's, people learn how to re-swing, whether it's tennis or golf or baseball or whatever it is. And that's part of the gig. All right. I hope this is helpful. If it is, please leave your comments and questions below. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'm Kalani. I'll see you all in a future video.